better document some of this. So I'm setting up a pole here to make it level across so I can measure the height. It's pretty level enough for this application. And I don't know if you can see it, got a nail here where I did a plumb bob down from up there where that chain attaches, and then I've got a plumb bob there that I marked. That goes to that there, and that's just for me to be able to write down on paper what measurements I have. I'm gonna make a steel piece. I was gonna do chain, but with the forces at work, it flexes a lot. It's supposed to, this limb here that we had to swing on, the rope broke, and when investigating that limb, it doesn't look like it would last all that much longer. So I was gonna make a steel frame that's suspended across these two limbs up there, and then from there I would weld on a piece that goes over to the trunk, and then from that piece that goes this way, I'd hang the swing. But the chain, you know, being flexible, it when the weight comes down, it pulls this way. So swinging on the swing, it would not feel all that comfortable because it would flex too much. But a lot of times you have to just try this out to see what the forces are doing. And after I did it, I don't know if you can see that other chain right there. I thought I needed to try something else. Probably, I mean, it would have worked, but it just doesn't feel as comfortable when you pump in the swing, and then each time you do it, kind of just flexes like with a bendy limb. Doesn't feel as good. So that's where I'm at now. I'm just getting ready to measure across there and write it all down on paper so that I can get this, measure this height and that height down to the pipe, and that way I can see what the difference is between those two limbs, and then weld my frame up before taking it up in the tree, which would be that'll be a feat on its own. I'll come back when I get further. All right, adding a little more information here. Got the two hook ends. They're done at their different angles according to the limb that I've got out there. I took measurements. This is propped up to get the height difference between the one limb to the X, and this is upside down. This will be the piece that right here, I got this level going plumb, and that's the center right there. Measure from here likely to the center of there, so it's like 1/4 possibly, or third. I might either divide this up into thirds and then come from the third, or come from the fourth. I don't know. So that's where I'm at. It takes a bit of engineering to get it done. Got this yellow string connected there so I can measure the angles of that, and then I'll come back after that. Something happened to the teeth on my carbide metal cutting blade. I don't know what happened, but so I had to cut these all by hand with a thin angle grinder cutter blade. Then when I got this joint together and put it there, it was off like about 1 inch. See that white? But I went ahead and got the middle lined up with that. It's not super critical. I just wanted it to look pretty good. So I had this here to keep that from sliding down while I tack welded it and tacked that one. And then that end down there is gonna be pretty level with the ground, or pretty level there. So I laid that one across and then used the 6 foot level to clamp to here and there to hold that while I tack welded it. So now I'm going to take all that down and finish welding. Well, I got that piece welded together, and I made a plate there that mates up with another identical plate that the crossbar will mate up to. And I'm getting ready to try to hoist it up there in the tree. So I'll get the tripod set up and try to capture that. It's always hard to think through every angle when you're building something like that. Yeah, could have done a 45 right there and then over. I thought about doing that, but then I thought, you know, I'm doing overkill here, but I think intuition was right. So here's how I designed it to not pull off of the limb, like if under high winds. It's under some pretty good tension anyway, because I pulled the limb over, but if we got like a windstorm or something and the limbs were moving back and forth, this will keep the pipe from pulling off. And here's the other side. So here's the pivots for the swings. It's a 1/4 28 thread for putting a grease zerk in there. This is a 1/4 28 bolt, and I put the nut, threaded up on here, and then threaded this into the hole before the nut was on. And then I turned the nut down against the surface of the pipe. Not super tight, but just snugged it down. And then left that together while I welded it on. So that lets the threads in the nut and the threads that I cut in the pipe line up. So when you take it out, your Zerk threads in without the threads getting bound up. I can't seem to get my MIG welder to feed evenly on low current, so it's a little ugly and chunky. I don't have a TIG welder yet, which would have been ideal for that. And the reason I put it down, so that it's in a less vulnerable position, because if someone climbs a tree and maybe walks across the pipe, those won't be sticking up here in the way. I put the weld of the pipe down low because then it's not going to be, if that makes sense. So the smooth side will be resting on the top here. So when I add the grease, I'll just turn it up like this, add the grease, and then let it go back down, because that'll spread it over the top mostly. We're mat there. And then I decided to make a socket as opposed to welding this pipe on, just in case, you know, it gets bent. Like if there's too much weight, or, you know, because I'm thinking of having 2 swings. This actually needs to be cut to length. And this hook is to store the climbing swinging rope out there. I wanted to put one on the outside of the truss out there, but I kind of forgot about it till later, so I added it to this part. So this is going to go through that V out there, which kind of comes to here, and then the rope, you swing it and then let it get hooked into there. And I put the bolt this direction because it'll squeeze the pipe a little bit when you tighten it, and that most of the action of this pipe is going to want to be this direction. So I put it that way is to make it a little bit tighter, because if I put it here, that would probably tick back and forth inside there as someone swung. And you're probably wondering what that is. That's what happens when you forget to wear your gloves when you're welding. It's radiation burn. All right, so this is how it works. There'll be grease in there, and then there'll be so it'll be this one, and then there'll be a spacer. I was gonna just do rings first, just like weld them on, but I wanted to be able to repair and do it in future. So then I thought about putting collars here that have a bolt through them, hold them on. But then as time progressed, I thought just having spacers, like to be a spacer here, then the next one would go, and then a spacer, then the next swing, and so on. At the very end, I'd have, it would bolt into another socket like this, and they would all kind of stay in place, but what it might end up doing is causing a squeak, because as this turns, it might cause this to turn, and if there's not much grease under there, it'll just kind of squeak. So that's the plan anyway. It's raining outside. I'm still working here. Just wanted to show kind of how I go about truing up these joints. I had to try to get this level first, and it was pretty level, I mean, for this application, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be pretty close. And then, so I need to see if this is plumb. It's not quite, so then I'm gonna shim that. See if that does it. It's a little too much. Let's see if I can pull a little bit out. This is by no means a precision level, but if we can get as close as we can, and then so this is level pretty much, and that's plumb down there. And then I need to put it on here, and I need to true that up, but I have to have both hands to do that. Just wanted to show how I go about it. Then I'll tack that 3 points, this side, that side, and then the top. And then after that, after it cools, I finish welding the whole joint. I opted for this instead of a socket on this end too, because with the material I had, and it's the weekend and I can't get back to the steel supply place, I wanted this challenge to be one where I don't screw anything into the tree, like put lags in the tree. You know, the tree can survive that, but I just wanted to do what I can just to hang it from existing limbs and like the trunk of the tree and so on. So I made a plate there for putting some galvanized lags into the tree, but I really wanted to keep going with what I was doing because I wanted this to act as a portfolio piece for other people maybe who they want to build a tree house or a swing bracket truss like I'm building here, and they don't want to challenge the tree in its survival. You want it to not have something that could inhibit its health. So this is going to go around that limb up by the trunk of the tree, and we'll see what happens when I get there, because I didn't want any pivoting action. But I think with how rigid the other end is with that truss, it's really not going to pivot. I just got done cutting this piece of treated pine and use the router to round out the corners so there's no sharp edges. Those I belt sanded first, and then took a 1/2-inch radius around the perimeter, and I think it's a 1/4-inch radius on the holes. So I'm getting ready to test fit the swing, get the chains the right length, and then when the steel supply store is open Monday, I'll get the remaining piece of 2-inch pipe to go between the pivots. So yesterday I mixed myself up a homemade cosmoline formulation. It's got additional things that a commercial cosmoline doesn't have. I've not put it on this yet, but I put it on the one outside. It's in the tree, and it looks like it's gonna do well. It once it dries, it has just a little bit of a waxy feel to it. I can't really show that on the camera, but it should work. So there's that. And then I took the swing back down, and I'm lining up the links here to measure how wide the spacer should be between the pivots. So that's what I'm doing now. I think I'm just gonna make it 18. That makes it just a little wider than there, which always helps the swing to stay straight more than if it's just parallel. I'll come back when I get further along. Got all the spacers put in, and the last one welded on there. So when this is disconnected here, those all can slide off, except for the last one, of course. I'd have to cut it off. And then I filled each of those with grease until I could see it around there. I was gonna attach all those spacers together so that they wouldn't spin, but I think I was overkill. And then I put this hook here just for a precaution, like if I want to add a chain to support the middle of that. Like if right now there's only one swing, but if two people swung, like I put another swing over here, and there were two big people, that 1.5 inch pipe could bend in the middle. It's about it's just shy of 8 feet. So anyway, I'm getting ready to go put this back up in the tree, and then after that, tomorrow I'm gonna stain this and seal it. Sorry, the wind is blowing out here, so it may be hard to hear me, I don't know. But it's got 2 coats of tongue oil on it. It's just a little tacky, but it's not enough to get off on your clothes. So I don't know if you can see the pivots up there or not. And there's that